morning and welcome to Zen Fits on this beautiful Monday in Blackstone, Virginia, center of the world. But then you too are at the center of your world. The title that I've been writing, usually I start my talk on what I begin to write about in the morning. So I come down and I begin to write on some topic and it just kind of like flows out of my fingers and then I want to talk about it. So I was writing about vegetarianism this morning, commenting on somebody's thing. It's a very popular topic. People still struggle with it. They become vegan or vegans is kind of like a Puritan vegetarian, you know. It becomes more of a religion. I do speak with some experience about this vegetarian, vegetables versus meat, in my life, because my first experience with let's just tell you my story. My first experience with vegetarianism was in 1970. I was having been rejected from the Presbyterian seminary, theological seminary in Richmond. I was looking for a path, since the Christian path had, sorry, Charlie, you can't go to the tuna factory. I was looking for somebody to let me go to the tuna factory. So I became inspired by, I was touched by various yoga influences of the East. I should go east, young man, since the Christian tradition had shut the door. Go east. So I was going east, into mysticism, into the Eastern knowledge and wisdom. And I was touched by this yoga teacher in Cleveland, Alice Christenson. And so a friend of mine said that he had, that he had found the path in her. And this is 1970 now. This is, this was the end of the 60s, and all the gurus and Eastern tradition was coming into this country. So I knew that's what I wanted. But I just knew. So I drove up to see her. She was at a house. And smoked half a pack of cigarettes going there. And I walked in to see her, and she was getting ready to go out. And I said, I want to be your student. She said, okay. She wrote, here's a mantra. Say this mantra on a mala, 60 rounds a day, which was about an hour's worth of Om Namah Shivaya. And do these asanas, put down some asanas. And don't eat meat, don't smoke, and don't drink. Come see me in a year. Bye. Oh, is that all? I was accepted. And the meat fell off. Bam. There was no more. And the smokes and the drinks, gone. It was like it never existed. There was no, oh, I got to battle it. There was no struggle. It just left. And for the year, I was a yogi. See, it was easy. There was no conflict, you see. So then I went up to Cleveland finally to live there. And after 3 years, I became discouraged because I had not become enlightened yet. So we went back to Virginia. And went back to rural Virginia. And in the 80s or the 70s, there was no work here. And so the only job I could get was driving a truck. And it was a meat truck. McMillan's meat truck in Victoria, Virginia. And every morning I would go and get my truck. Because back then you had meat markets, grocery stores in every town. So you had to deliver to these little markets. And we'd get Hormel, all this boxed meat, And every now and then I'd get a quarter of a steer, be a leg sticking out of the boxes. Oh my God, I got to carry it. So anyway, my truck would be full. And I would deliver it all day, and I'd come home, and the truck was so light. And then the next morning, it would be full again. And I would deliver it all day, and I would come home, and the truck was so light. And the truck would be full again the next. It was like the myth of Sisyphus. I was like in my karma. And I was probably the only vegetarian meat truck driver in the world, I'm sure. I wrote a letter to Alice, told her what I was doing. She said, I have no idea what's happened to you. I don't know where you are. She couldn't believe it. But anyway, so there I am in the meat truck driving in, sitting with myself. Here I am, driving a meat truck, a fallen yogi. I'd fallen from the path. I'd lost my aspiration, my calling, my vocation, my desire for God, my desire for enlightenment, whatever. I was just driving a meat truck. And so the smokes came back. And I began to have a Big Mac attack. Now I'm fighting the devil. Eating meat, smoking, drinking, fighting the devil. Throwing the cigarettes out with one hand and going to a 7-Eleven and buying another pack with the right hand. Then, oh, this disgusting, throw them out the window. Would you give me some Marlboros, please? Throw them out the window. Never again. Marlboros, please. Back and forth, back and forth. You all know what that's like. Suddenly I asked my heart, wait, what do I really want? What does my heart want? What do I really want? I want to be back on that path. So I knew what I was going to do. So I packed up, left, went back to Cleveland. Family came up a little later, got back on the path. But the past was a roller coaster. But anyway, I was back. The point is, sticking to the story here, you know, vegetarian, the meat fell off again, like that, boom. And so then, jumping ahead, when we left, in 1980, we left Cleveland again. I went to India, came to Blackstone. My guru died. I had a different, see the guy up in the corner, see up here. So I began to follow Muktananda and vegetarianism and all that. And so then when we came back to Virginia, and I couldn't find work again, and I was back into, I wasn't driving a meat truck, but I was back into that state of mind. I've lost my path. I don't know what I'm doing. Who am I? What is my service? What's my purpose? Falling into this vortex of despair, desperation. And guess what? The meat came back. The smokes didn't. But the meat came back, you see. Because, you know, you're living, the very difficult problem with vegetarianism is that you're living in a meat-eating world. Now it's not so hard. Now, everybody's got a vegetarian bar. But you know, earlier, there was no, it was all meat or nothing. So you just, if you go to a restaurant, you would say, well, give me the steak and the mashed potato and peas and hold the steak. You get the mashed potatoes and peas. So anyway, he came back, and that was fine. I was, you know, working. Finally got a job with the Courier Record, and I'm eating. I was practicing Southside Virginia. Eat best steaks you can buy, drink the best booze you can have barbecues, you know, and no problem. And that was fine until 2005. I went up to Yogaville and to take my daughter up there, and bam, my path came back. My path came back. My heart came back. And the meat fell off again. Boop, gone. Didn't even exist. And so then meditation started and writing started. So that went along fine until practicing that until 2012, I believe. And I went to a dinner party, and the hostess came up. I'd been practicing Buddha Dharma by then. And so I went to this dinner party, and the hostess, the cook, you know, she brought this chicken dish. I don't know, she was so proud of it. And I refused it. I said, I'm sorry, vegetarian. And I remember the look on her face. You know what? And so suddenly I said, you know, what the hell, give me the chicken. Because I had understood that in Buddha Dharma, teaching to Buddha, now the way he compromised this, because he had a problem. You know, his monks back in his day, 500 years before Christ, this was a monastic tradition, and the Buddhist monk would go out into the town with his bowl, and he would, I forgot what it's called, but it's a practice where you would just accept what people put in the bowl. You didn't, you know, if no one put in the bowl, anything in the bowl, you wouldn't eat. So it's a way of just receiving what is given, not being aggressive, give me that, but just receiving, being open, an open bowl. So the Buddha said, well, if somebody puts some meat in there, eat it. Just don't have any animals killed for you. So that was the way, because that otherwise, you know, if somebody put the meat in the bowl, you say, oh, what do you do? So, you know, so that was the Buddha's compromise with that. And I realized, well, that, you know, if that was the Buddha Dharma, then I could eat the chicken and not hurt this lady. I mean, I wasn't hurting the chicken by eating it. It was dead, but I was hurting that lady. So what's the compromise there I felt, you see? Do I hurt the lady, my guest, my host, you see? Or do I hurt an imaginary chicken? Because the chicken's long dead. You see, and I wasn't killed for me. I didn't have that chicken killed for me. But anyway, this is just my story here, so you can light into me or whatever you want, you see, but I'm just putting this in the context of my own experience. So I ate the chicken. And so we're eating meat again. And it's okay. It's okay. I don't go out and have animals killed for me, but I'm at peace with it. And it's kind of like, you know, that the Buddha Dharma is basically, it's all about finding balance. It's because life gives you conflicting commandments. Life gives us conflicting imperatives. Be part of the group. Be separate be special. Be blended. Be obedient to the higher order. Be special. Be unique. Follow your own dreams. So these are constant imperatives that we're fighting, you see. So if there's any resistance, for instance, if you're a vegetarian, I think that's great. And vegans, more power to you. However, if you find that there is a conflict, I really would like that, but do you have anything that tastes like meat? Oh, do you have some substitute bacon? I really like bacon. Oh, do you have any substitute? Well, you're in for you can't maintain that, you know. So either it falls off or it doesn't. You know, if it doesn't fall off, then you're in conflict with yourself. Oh, I really want that, but I can't have it. You see, so that's something you have to work with. That's something you have to discover how to transcend the conflict within you, because all conflicts are within you. We think they're in the world. No, it's you. You are the world and the world is you. So when I open this talk, I say you're the center of the world. That means that you are the world and the world is. So if there's any conflict that you have with the world, any argument you have with the world, it's in you. That's where you need to look. And that's where you need to find balance. And balance is going to be a creative response. You have to find a creative response to solve the inner conflicts, the argument with yourself, you see. Because when you have an argument with yourself, if you take one side against the other, eventually you're going to get tired and the other side will come back. Eventually you're going to get tired of fighting cigarette smokes and you'll find yourself buying a pack of cigarettes. You see. Oh, how'd that happen? Yeah, all right. So the place to start, the place to look, the place to go to the heart, to resolve the conflict of the mind. Should I do it? Should I not? Throw it out, buy it, throw the smokes out, buy the smokes. That's all here. The heart is the place of resolution, and it's always going to be a creative solution. It will create the heart will create yourself. The heart will create your path. The mind looks for a path to follow. What's right? I go this way. If I go that way, then the other way will haunt me. The heart unifies through a creative response. That's my Zen Fit for today. Thanks for dropping in. See you maybe at martini time at 5 o'clock.